Hello, my name is Obi, and it's great to be here. I feel very honored to be talking to you today about some of the exciting trends that we see on the internet. With all those financial headlines looking very doom and gloom, it's easy to forget that the internet is one of the bright spots of the economy, and one that continues, even through the deepest crisis, continue to drive growth for businesses, both by starting up new businesses as well as opening up new opportunities for existing businesses. We're living in a time of immense change. And just to illustrate how real that change is, I'll tell you a personal story. So 10 years ago, I was working for an American startup called eToys. We sold toys online. And I was setting up eToys in Germany. So on January 2nd, I landed in Munich. I was by myself. 6 months later, I'd set up an office. I'd hired 50 people. We had a website, and we were ready to trade. 6 months later, the business was bankrupt. eToys went bust globally. It was the first .com boom and bust. I was 28, and I thought, this is the end. It's over. And of course, now we know that that was only the beginning. Yesterday, I was at a startup conference. It's called Seed Camp. And what Seed Camp does is they connect business mentors and investors with startups from all across Europe. In fact, they had a Seed Camp in Prague earlier in the year. And it was really amazing to see all these startups. And again, going through that period where, 3, 4, 5 months ago, many of them had nothing. They had an idea. And now some of them are already trading. So the speed was really astonishing. And none of those businesses there would have been possible without the internet. And yet they were touching lots of different sectors. Finance, commerce, there was a really interesting fashion business that wants to connect fashion designers directly to supply chains in the East. Interestingly enough, one of the mentors I met at Seed Camp was a guy from mytoys.de, which was the local competitor. It was a startup in Germany that was copying the eToys model very successfully. So he sold his business for lots of money to a German retailer and is doing very well now, investing in lots more startup businesses. So that always reminds us, we know in Czech, Google has an amazing competitor in Seznam. Google, thankfully, isn't about to go bankrupt, but it definitely keeps us on our toes to have good competition. So it's very inspiring. It was really inspiring for me yesterday to see these companies spring up, and I learned a lot from them, and I'll share some of the examples of how they're thinking about internet trends with you, because I think that for all us, for all the more established companies out there, if you're not embracing these trends and making the most of it, you will be missing out on that growth. And maybe, one of the startups will come along and be bigger than you one day. So, oops. So where are we now? Well, we're in a position where the world is getting connected. There's 1.9 billion people using the internet on their computers. That's an amazing number. In Europe, about 65% of homes are now online. And in fact, that's exactly the number for Czech. So 65% of users are, 65% of Czech people are online. So the Czech is an advanced market. If you look at mobile, the numbers are even bigger. So there's 5 billion mobile phones. Now, of course, not everyone is using the internet on their mobile, but I'll share some numbers with you on how fast that is growing. In the Czech Republic, there's more mobiles than people. So mobile is one of the areas that is incredibly important for driving internet growth in the future. At the moment, half of all new internet connections are on mobile. And by 2015, we think that globally, there'll be more people accessing the internet from their mobile than on desktop. And in some countries, for instance, in South Africa, that's already the case today. So I'll talk a bit more about mobile later. So what are all these people doing? Well, we think the internet has become their best friend. So they consult it for anything, whether they're searching online. 4 billion searches every day are done on the internet every day. Or whether they're connecting with other people. 2/3 of the online population have been to a social network. So that's another one of the trends that I'll talk a bit more about later. So that's where we are. But where are we going next? So now I'm going to talk to you about 5 trends that we see at Google that we think is really shaping what companies are doing now and also what's going to happen in the future. So the first trend is search. We're a search company, so we will talk to you about what's going on in search. We really think that search will continue to be a big starting point for what people are doing online. So I talked about the 4 billion searches worldwide. People are becoming more and more sophisticated in the way they use search as well, and they're expanding the range of what they're searching for. So for instance, the number of keywords in a query is getting longer. It used to be 1, maybe 2 words, now it's 2, 3 words, as people are more specific about what they're searching for. They search on search engines, but they also search on lots of other sites. So for instance, YouTube also gets hundreds of millions of searches every day. People search on mobile. About 50% of people who use the internet on their mobile start on search. So, you know, if with a few clicks, they find very quickly what they're looking for. So what does that mean for you? Well, it means that the internet can put your products in front of people at exactly the point when they are looking for your product or your service, but you have to be there. In the Czech Republic, about 50% of Czech internet users were looking for products and services on search in the last 3 months. And there's also a very interesting phenomenon that we call ROPO, so it's research online, purchase offline, where in Europe, about 55% of people actually look on the internet first, even if they then complete their purchase in a store. So what does that mean? It means you have to be easy to be found, and you have to have the right web presence when people are completing their searches. So what do people see when they search for you on Google, on YouTube, or on Twitter? So what they're looking for is ultimately content. And this brings me to my second trend. We're seeing an absolute explosion in rich media content. There's 2 billion videos that get streamed on YouTube every day. And about 8% of those, by the way, are on mobile, so 160 million streams of YouTube, which is absolutely extraordinary. But there's lots and lots of other content services that are springing up all over. So digital downloads, for instance, are now 40% of US music sales. There's a Swedish startup called Spotify that allows you to access music online. They have about 250,000 paying subscribers last time I looked. They probably have more now. And people really actively sharing their music on Spotify. So they're creating playlists of music, they're creating playlists of videos, and they're sharing it with other people. And I think that's a real difference between rich media content on the internet compared to linear content on TV where you would just watch by yourself. Now, my colleagues Christoph and Severe will talk much more about YouTube later, so I'm not going to steal their thunder. I just want to show you one of my favorite examples of a brand creating very engaging content. So if you can switch to the laptop and here. So this is a brand, Tipex, which for those of you that still learn to type on a typewriter like I did a long time ago might remember. Volume. Help. Hang on.
Help me to rewrite this story. Type anything you want with your keyboard. Then enjoy.
Okay, let me just sorry, it's a very short video. I'm just going to try and replay it. Okay, so they set up this. This is their YouTube channel. Severe, help. Why is it not playing?
Come on! Write something up there.
Okay. So what he's asking you to do, so he's basically saying, hang on, there's a bear. And he says he doesn't want to shoot it. I'm really sorry you couldn't hear it. So what he's asking you to do is put something into the box on the top. So I'm going to put in play. Let's see what he does.
Yes!
So give me some other examples of what you'd like the bear to do. Mary?
Ta-da! No.
Anything else? Eat?
Oh, here you go. Here, take some of this. There you go. Now you can kiss me.
Let's see.
What? No. Oh!
Anyway, you should definitely go to the channel. If you scroll down, you'll see all the comments of all the things that people talked about. It's extraordinary, and they've literally created, tens of videos. It's absolutely amazing. So it's a really great example of a brand deeply engaging with video and creating content for it specifically. Can we go back to my presentation? Not this one? Great. So I touched on mobile a couple of times. Mobile is one of those things where 4 years ago when I started at Google, every year we said this is going to be the year of mobile. But I believe this year really truly is the year of mobile, and next year is going to be even bigger because the mobile platform is now coming of age. So both for media and for e-commerce. So in Western Europe, about a quarter of all mobile handsets are now smartphones that are being sold. Obviously, Apple led the wave with the iPhone, but lots and lots of other manufacturers are now following suit. So Android, the platform that Google contributes to, there's 2 new Android devices that get sold every second, about 200,000 a day at the moment. And I just heard that in Czech, apparently there's now more Android devices being sold than iPhones. That's very exciting. You're leading the way. On eBay, on their mobile side, every 2 seconds somebody's buying something. Amazon is generating $1 billion of sales each year via mobile. And in Japan, mobile sales are now 20% of total online sales, which is absolutely extraordinary. So there's people who are buying online, but then again, of course, they're also using it to look up things on their phones. So 30% of US smartphone users, for instance, they're standing in a store, they're looking at a product, and they're checking prices online. So that's what people are doing. They're doing, and plus all the other things that they're doing on the internet. So what this means is that mobile enables a whole new ecosystem of innovation. Going back to the startups, at Seedcamp, there was like several companies that had built their entire business around mobile, around location-based services. There was a mobile payment provider that allows small businesses to just enable their shop to be sell online on mobile. And at Google, we've got a whole load of products that are specific to mobile and exploit the great features that mobiles have, like the fact that they can listen and that they have a camera, so they can see and they can hear. So Dave later on is going to demo goggles and voice search and some other cool products. But mobile isn't just standalone. Mobile does touch every business, and lots of businesses are only just starting to grasp the opportunity that that affords. So at Google, we don't really think of mobile as separate anymore. We try and bring out products at the same time on desktop as well as on mobile, because it's just another way that users access the same content. So what does this mean for businesses? Well, I think you should follow users. If they're going on mobile, again, you need to be there. And at Seedcamp, when I was talking to the startups, they completely get this. So for instance, as they're thinking about launching their website, they're also thinking about launching their iPhone app or their Android app. It's just completely part of the things they would do preparing for their launch. And apps have probably been one of the biggest success stories on mobile so far. So there's about 5 billion iPhone apps now that have been downloaded and about 400 million on Android. And there's 225,000 iPhone apps and 80,000 Android apps available. So these numbers are extraordinary, and they're still going up every day. So one of the ones I wanted to show you is actually an example from a very established business, from Pizza Hut, who've built an amazing iPhone app. They launched this about a year ago, and it's not just a really bland replica of their online ordering that you can do on the website. They've really used the things that the phone can do to make it a more engaging experience. So for instance, when you're ordering a pizza, you use the scroll wheel to choose the crust. You can drag and drop ingredients on top of it, and you pinch and zoom to increase or decrease the size of the pizza. And then you send off your order, and while you're waiting, they've made a little game where you have to dodge flying pizzas, so it's keeping you entertained while you wait for your pizza. So needless to say, it was very successful. Within 3 months of launch, they had 1.5 million downloads, and they had over $1 million of sales generated by the app. So I think it's a really great example. My next trend is much less fun, much more nerdy, but possibly even more fundamental. And that's about learning to love data. Through the internet, you've got such a plethora of data that is available to you. So starting with analytics for your website, which can be free, like Google Analytics. It's my plug for the free Google product. But you can also look at other trends. So for instance, we make search trends available in real time to anyone. So if you go to Insights for Search or Google Trends, you can plug in search terms, and you can see how they've been doing over time. So this is a really interesting one. It's a brand that was launched in Czech recently, XXX Lutz, one of the furniture companies. And you can really see they were nowhere, they're the yellow line. And this is where they launched, and they did a big TV campaign. And so they shot up in brand awareness. And you can often see this link very closely between TV and search, and how people are translating what they've seen on a TV ad into the interest that comes through on search. So it's a very simple way of seeing whether your campaign is working. And in fact, the German Advertising Association, they've got an effectiveness award, and they're now using Insights for Search as one of the criteria in determining whether the ad was effective. You can also take advantage of this to look at what people are thinking about right this minute. So for instance, people are using it to predict which country they should go into next, because people are already looking for their product in that country. Or you could figure out, what is important and what's on people's minds at the moment. So for instance, here you can see the elections going up and down, like as interest rose in September, and then obviously recently again. And one example that I actually wanted to put in, but forgot, was when the US was playing Slovenia in the World Cup, suddenly Slovenia map was one of the top trending terms, because of course all the Americans had no idea where this country Slovenia was that was playing them. And my last trend is social. So social is booming. It's become mainstream in only, say, 3 years. 5 years ago, nobody had heard of Facebook. Now half of Czechs use Facebook, and I said 800 million people, 2/3 of the world's online population has been on social media sites. And they spend a lot of time there. It's almost 14% of total worldwide time spent online is on social media sites. So what does that mean for you? Well, like with mobile, follow the users, and engage with millions of people there. So when I was talking to the startups yesterday, we had a marketing panel, and we were discussing how they can scale marketing. They have no people, they have no time, etc. And then several of the founders in the room, like people who had already started successful businesses, said, don't hire a marketing manager first, hire a community manager. You want somebody who's reading the message boards, who's looking at comments on YouTube, who's looking at Twitter, and who reads that stuff so you know what people think of your product, and they also respond. And then manages that presence on the social networks and other social presences. So that was very interesting, I thought. So again, the startups are ahead, but big businesses are doing it as well. So 52% of European businesses in the Fortune Global 100 have a YouTube account. About the same have a Facebook fan page, and over 70% of them use Twitter. It's also a very easy way for small businesses to get started, because you already know how to operate Twitter or Facebook, so you just set it up for your business as well. I think if you're an FMCG brand in particular, like any of those brands that don't have the direct connection to their customers, it's an amazing opportunity to kind of create that. So set up your YouTube account, set up your Facebook and your Twitter, etc. But of course, it means you need to have content. So like the examples I was showing earlier, that's content. Tipex created content specifically for YouTube that was very engaging and therefore very popular. And then of course, be genuine, do it yourself, and hire a community manager. Don't let an agency do it. But social is much more than just social networks. So we're seeing, again, a whole load of services emerging that, are in the space that wouldn't have been possible before. And many of them are on mobile. So for instance, one of the apps that I really like is Foursquare, where you check into a place like a restaurant, or in the case of me, my local playground where I'm with my 3-year-old every Saturday, and then you can see which other of your friends are around. And it tells you what, for instance, is trending. So for instance, last Saturday, there was a festival in London, and I suddenly thought, oh, maybe that's an interesting place to go to. So that's standalone things, but again, like with mobile, it's also, social is being built into all sorts of existing businesses. So it's being built into search to make search more social. It's being built into commerce, you know, having people vote on what they like and so on, being shown on e-commerce site. And then perhaps even on a more fundamental level, think about like which products are inherently social, which ones are shared. So Skype, for instance, or Google Talk is a really good example. If you want to talk for free to friends in other countries, you know, you have an incentive as the user to share that product. So the startups I was talking to yesterday were all thinking like, how can I make my product inherently social? So it's not just about having a presence on social networks. It's actually, again, something that permeates what you do on a much, much deeper level. And I think we're just at the beginning. So, you know, watch this space, but also start taking part in it and playing. So that's it. That was my trend. I hope that was interesting. Thank you very much.